Welcome back to Phoenix 14 News at Elon University's election coverage on the WCWG. We have more results for you, so let's get to them. Starting with the only contested district attorney race in Alamance County. In the District 15A district attorney race, Democrat incumbent Pat Nadolski is running against Republican Rob Sharp. With 52% of the vote, Nadolski leads his opponent for the 4-year term as Alamance County district attorney. Now to the contested race for sheriff in Alamance, Guilford, and Forsyth counties. Starting in Alamance, in the contentious race between Republican Sheriff Terry Johnson and his opponent, Democrat Ron Parrish. According to digtriad.com, Sheriff Johnson leads with 62% of the vote to serve another term as Alamance County Sheriff. Moving now to Guilford County in the race between Sheriff B.J. Barnes and Democrat Phil Wadsworth. Sheriff Barnes leads the vote with 60%. Lastly, in Forsyth County, the sheriff's race is between current Forsyth County Sheriff Bill Schatzman and Democrat Jerry Herron. Again, according to Dig Triad, Schatzman leads with 59% and Herron has 42%. It's not a presidential election year, so students are not as eager to get involved on the most part, but our Jeff Ackerman takes a look at 3 reasons why students might want to pay attention.
Yeah, I'm definitely voting in the midterm elections.
Presidential candidates may not be on the ballot, but freshman Maddie Carlin is heading to the polls. She says it's important for college students like her to get out and vote in this midterm election.
It's really important because we're graduating in a couple of years and we need politicians in office that are going to pass laws and enact policies that strengthen the economy so we can get jobs.
And right now, jobs matter. Bureau of Labor Statistics data shows 10% of Americans are out of work, and rates are almost as high throughout North Carolina at about 9.6%.
College students are particularly worried about the economy.
Political science professor Malia Cromer says college students will cast vital votes on November 2nd when it comes to improving the economy.
As you know, at Elon, you are sinking quite a bit of money into your education, and you're hoping to get some sort of return on your investment.
Then there's the heated debate over health care, another reason Cromer says young voters need to pay attention to this election.
As soon as you graduate from college, you're going to be faced with this reality. If you don't walk into a job, a position that's full-time that offers you health insurance, you might be part of those millions of Americans who are uninsured.
Going green is also on the forefront of this midterm election. Some political experts think protecting the environment is just as important to the future of this country as any other issue, and feel young voters need to pay attention.
We know about environmental issues. First of all, the oil spill down the Gulf was a good example of it. We've also known that global warming is expanding, and this is having a devastating effect.
So whatever the issue, college students speaking up in these midterm elections could make a big impact on our country's future and your own. Jeff Ackerman, Phoenix 14 News Tonight.
Student engagement has been a particular interest in this election. I'd like to bring back my panelists to talk about midterm election so-called apathy. Let's start with Andrew on this one. Did you vote? And if you did, what pushed you to do so?
I did vote. I just enjoy voting. But I don't really necessarily call it apathy. I don't think students are any more apathetic. I think just they're more informed during an election year involving a president, and I think that's just really a national trend. It was curious, before we came on, we were looking at districts that had large universities. For example, back home, Penn State University, that district usually brings out a big shift left, and there was no shift left. I just think it's nationwide, just students just aren't very interested in midterm elections. I don't think they really see a benefit, and I don't think there's really no correlation between voting down here when they're from out of state, 75% out of state.
Chaz, why'd you vote?
You know, I've always considered voting my single biggest civic duty as a citizen of the United States. But I also come from a very strong family of voters, and I grew up in that culture. But I would say we're largely the minority among a lot of our peers. And it's too bad because there's a lot of important issues, like was just stated. And I think in 2008 you had Barack Obama, who's enormously appealing to our generation. And you're only going to get it come down no matter what in a midterm election in terms of student voting. And it's too bad because there's definitely a detachment between the government and our younger generation right now. A lot of important issues out there, and by them not voting, we're forfeiting, you know, our rights as citizens. So,
what is the big issue for you? Is it jobs? Is it something else? What made you vote?
For me, I come from a very moderate stance in my political ideology, and I see a lot of polarization in terms of the candidates that we have nationwide right now. And I'm a big supporter of moderate candidates, I always have been. And I think for me, trying to get back and advocating for that middle ground candidates, for me is, along with issues like jobs and the environment, issues that are really important to our generation have always driven me to vote. So.
Sure, and Andrew, your last word real quickly?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of bickering in the campaign, and for anybody even be marginally interested, hearing words such as, we're not going to compromise, and the polarization, I just didn't bring it.
All right, thanks to our panel. We'll hear more from you later in the show. But I want to get to more results, moving now to nonpartisan offices. There were many statewide judges races up for grabs. Let's get into them, starting with the one available seat on the North Carolina Supreme Court. Current Court of Appeals judges Bob Hunter and Barbara Jackson are challenging each other for that open seat. With 13% of the precincts reporting, Jackson leads with 52% of the vote, and Hunter is a close behind with the remaining 48%. There are 4 available seats on the Court of Appeals, 3 of which are contested. Incumbent Anne Marie Calabria runs against Jane Gray, incumbent Rick Elmore is against Stephen Walker, and incumbent Martha Geer is facing Dean Poirier. With 13% of precincts reporting, Calabria is currently holding onto her seat with 54% of the vote. Elmore leads Walker with 55% of the vote, and incumbent Martha Geer is leading to hold her seat with 59% of the vote to serve another term on the State Court of Appeals. There was also one special instant runoff election for the 5th available seat on the Court of Appeals. This one is between 13 different candidates. On the ballot, voters were asked to vote for the first, second, and third choices to fill the seat. If no candidate gets 50% of the vote, second and third choices will then be looked at until a candidate reaches the required majority. In this election, no candidate has that 50% majority required, so the Board of Elections will have to check those second and third choices. We will update the results of this race when they are tabulated. Now to education. In Alamance, Guilford, and Forsyth counties, voters elected new school board members. Starting in Alamance County, the 3 available school board positions were between 7 candidates. According to the Board of Elections, Moffitt, Rose, and Evans have been elected to serve on the Alamance County School Board. Now in Guilford County, in the 1 at-large school board position between Lisa Clapp and Nancy Routh, with 54% of the votes, Routh will fill this open position. In the 1 open school board position between Garth Herbert and Ed Price, Price leads with 57% of the votes. Now in Forsyth County, and the 3 at-large school board positions, Metcalf, Lambeth, and Morsinger have been elected. 4 people are up for the 2 district spots on the Forsyth County School Board. The race is close. Brown is winning by only 18 votes. Johnson has 28.9% of the votes. And in the 4 available school board positions on District 2, Tackaberry, Collins, Goins, and Parker are leading. If you are just joining us, Senator Richard Burr has been declared the winner of the U.S. Senate. David Hodges has been with the Burr campaign all evening and spoke with Burr after his victory.
We've got to make sure that their capabilities in the future to actually fight provide them with the tools they need to win. And I think that's totally separate from what the bases just in North Carolina need. I want to make sure if we're going to engage the enemy, that we go into it with the intent of being victorious.
Do you think your win would be this large?
Well, I was hopeful that it would be, and it remains to be seen exactly how big it is. But I think when you look at it from a historical standpoint, nobody could ever choose this big a spread. But I'm certainly delighted, and it's indicative of, I think, the anger in North Carolina, but also the confidence and support that I've had across the state.
What did you say to Secretary Marshall? What did she say to you?
I told her that she ran a very honorable campaign and that I was appreciative of how it ended up, and I look forward to working with her in the future, as did she.
What did she say? What did she say?
To be honest with you, I wouldn't even tell you if you asked twice.
Senator, timetables are tough, but realistically, how long do you think it'll take to begin to start turning things around in Washington, sir?
Oh, I think it could be as early as a week from Monday when we head back to Washington and talk about the spending plan that we need to get in place so that the government doesn't shut down in early December. It's going to be addressing some of the needs that we have in healthcare, and I think we're going to start immediately.
Will you be taking a look at the
recently re-elected Senator Richard Burr? A surge in early voting in the state, in updated result numbers in the U.S. Senate race, and our panel weighs in on the results overall. Elon University's Phoenix 14 News on the CW. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the broadcast. A surge in early voting statewide. Voters have been hitting the polls and filling out absentee ballots for more than a month. According to the State Board of Elections, about 950,000 North Carolinians have already cast their votes. Of the nearly 1 million early voters, 20,000 came from Alamance County, 28,000 from Forsyth County, and 47,000 from Guilford County. According to the Guilford County Board of Elections, this is a record for midterm elections. Republican incumbent Senator Richard Burr is the projected winner by multiple media organizations tonight. David Hodges has been with the senator and his supporters in Winston-Salem all evening and joins us with more. David?
Drew, I'm still here at the election party, and the crowd has thinned out a little bit, but it's surprisingly still pretty strong. It's obvious that the people here really support Senator Burr and have been with him the whole way through, and they're here throughout the night to celebrate with each other and have a good time. I talked with someone on his campaign staff, and they said, they're glad it's over. They're glad it's ended in victory. He was drinking a beer, and he said it was the most refreshing and best tasting drink he's ever had. It's obvious that a lot of people here are feeling the same way after a long campaign that ended in victory and good news for them. Richard Burr did give a speech while he was here, thanking his supporters and also talking about how important it is that he won this seat.
Earlier this evening, I received a call from Secretary Marshall conceding the race. And I thanked her for being I thank her tonight for being part of this process we call democracy. I'm aware that I'm the first person re-elected to this Senate seat since 1968. Thank goodness the curse has been broken.
That's all we have here from the election party here tonight in Winston-Salem. This is David Hodges. Back to you in the studio, Drew.
David Hodges, thanks for your reporting all night from the Burr campaign. The president of the National League of Women Voters stopped by Elon's campus last week. Elizabeth McNamara talked with political science and journalism students. She wanted to gauge the political awareness of students here. Her message centered around the importance of electing state government in this election.
You are electing your entire state legislature in this election because that's what we do between presidential races. And those are the people that are going to be deciding what district you live in for the next 10 years. And if the negative advertising is getting to you and the tone of the debate, such as it is getting to you, one of the first steps to be paying attention to is how your districts are drawn.
All right, let's bring back our panel for the last time of the night. Any final thoughts on this election? We'll start with Chaz.
I think we'll see how this election continues to play out over the rest of the night. As it looks, I guess the Republicans will still probably take over the House. We'll see how many seats that actually is. Looks like the Senate will still stay with the Democrats. And I think coming out of this election, what we've really seen is that voters are just angry. They're very angry that the economy hasn't turned around, that unemployment hasn't dropped, and they're kind of rejecting Obama's overall campaign strategy or his overall agenda so far. But you know what? I think it's important, again, to keep this in context. We'll see how this plays out over the next 2 years, but we'll see how the Republicans respond to controlling the House.
Andrew, let's get your final comments.
I'm curious to see if the Republicans will overplay their mandate like Obama did, the Obama and the Democrats did in 2008, whether they will think that the general public is completely endorsing conservative views, because we're not really seeing that in the Senate. The Senate looks like it's going to stay in the Democrats' column. So it'll be curious to see how they govern and see if they do actually govern from the middle, which they said they won't do for the campaign. But I foresee that happening if they want to be successful.
All right, our panelists, Andrew Cordisco and Chaz Smith, thanks so much for being here with us tonight. And that is all the time we have for you today. We want to thank you for watching Elon University's Phoenix 14 News on the WCWG. We hope you have a great week.